Right guys, Chris here and welcome to lesson 3 of this 5-day challenge. Thank you very much to everybody who has completed lessons 1 and 2, and an extra special thanks to all of you who have completed the tasks. It's great to see so many of you moving forward, improving, moving towards your IELTS goal. It makes this all worthwhile. All I want to do is just help you guys get over this hurdle, and seeing you do the tasks, seeing you improve, seeing you learn really gives me a boost. So thank you very, very much for doing that. Okay guys, so what have we been doing this week? So let's just recap what we've been doing. The very first lesson we did on Monday, we looked at how to answer and analyze the question. And then yesterday, we looked at how to structure our answer and why we should use structures, why they are important, and why they're not so important also. So that helped with, getting you into how to actually structure and answer a task 2 discussion essay. Today we're going to focus on developing our main ideas. This is something that if you're hoping to get a band 7 or above, that you really need to focus on. And then tomorrow we're going to look at vocabulary. We're going to look at a lot of the misconceptions and the myths surrounding vocabulary, and then we're also going to look at paraphrasing, because paraphrasing is something that is it's really important. You have to do it multiple times throughout your writing test, so we're going to focus on paraphrasing. Not just paraphrasing, but a lot of that lesson will be about paraphrasing. And then finally we're going to finish up the week on Friday with grammar. So grammar is 25% of your total mark, vocabulary is 25% of your total mark, and then coherence and cohesion and task achievement, they were kind of the first 3 lessons, and then we're going to finish off with vocabulary and with grammar. Okay, so just to remind you, there are 5 different types of questions. There's been a lot of questions about this. We've been focusing mostly on discussion questions. A lot of the things that we're doing this week are applicable to all the different types of question, but we are focusing just on one, so do remember that. Okay, so let's focus on developing main ideas. So one of the most important things you have to learn how to do if you want one of the higher bands. Okay, so there's no getting around this. If you want a 7 or above, you have to develop your main ideas. It's very simple. You have to develop your main ideas, but more importantly, you have to know how to do this effectively. It's extremely simple, but like most things, students tend to overcomplicate this crucial stage. One of the things that when students join my VIP course, one of the things that we try and do with them is just stop them overcomplicating everything. For many of you, you have the ability to get the score that you need, but either through your mindset or maybe poor teaching, or you just are so worried about everything that you have overcomplicated everything. Often when people fail over and over again, what they think is, my test or my writing was too simple, so I have to get more complex, and if I use more complicated methods, then I'll get the higher score. It's the complete opposite. And they are just 3 simple steps. So the 3 simple steps are: topic sentence, clearly state what the paragraph is about, and this will be your main reason for your introduction. This will be your main idea. Then explain, so clearly explain your main idea. And this is much easier than you think, but it's something that a lot of people don't do well, not because it's a difficult thing to do, but really just because they don't know how to do it, or they haven't been taught properly how to do it yet. And then an example. So support your main idea with a relevant, specific example. And there's many misunderstandings about this also. So what we're going to do is we're going to teach you these 3 things. We're going to look at them in more detail, clarify them, and by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to develop your main ideas. So here's a question. Some people believe that it is good to share as much information as possible in scientific research, business, and the academic world. Others believe that some information is too important or too valuable to be shared freely. Okay, so you should be familiar with this question. If you're not, that means you've skipped lessons 1 and 2, so go back. So let's look at my introduction. So this is the introduction that I have created for this one. So if you want to pause the video and have a look at this, take your time if you want. If I'm going a little bit too fast, feel free to pause the video and have a look at this. So what I've done here in my introduction is I've followed the structure that we talked about yesterday. So I've paraphrased the question, and then what I've said is this is what one side thinks, but this is what the other side thinks, and I agree with this. Okay, so there are three things that I've done here. I've paraphrased the question, talked about one side, talked about the other side, and I've given my opinion, the three things that you need to do. So it is often said that the sharing of data is beneficial and should be encouraged in the areas of science, commerce, and academia. However, others disagree because this knowledge is too vital or precious to be widely shared. So that's just me paraphrasing the question. Now let's outline our main ideas and give our opinion. Although free distribution can enhance research, that's the first idea, this essay believes, that's my opinion, it can lead to threats to national security. That's the other idea. Okay, so now that we've created this, what we need to do is we need to move on to the meat in the sandwich, the most important part, which is the main body. And the reason why I'm showing you this introduction, this lesson is about developing main body paragraphs, but the reason why I'm showing you this introduction is because you're going to take these ideas from this introduction and you're going to fully develop them. So it's important that you always reference the introduction to create a clear, cohesive, coherent essay. So many people misunderstand what cohesion and coherence means. Well, a part of that is linking your introduction, your ideas in your introduction to the main body. And I don't mean linking by using linking words. I mean taking these ideas and putting them in your main body, because that's what the main body is for. The introduction is saying, this is what I'm going to talk about, and then the main body is, this is me developing these ideas. So let's move on to the first element of developing our main ideas, which is the main idea itself. And we put that into a topic sentence. The topic sentence is the first sentence in your main body paragraph. So it's a short, simple sentence and does not need to be fancy. All right, keep it short. It does not need to be a complex sentence. It can just be a short, snappy sentence just saying, this is exactly what I'm going to talk about. All right, don't overcomplicate it. They clearly state what the paragraph is about. So topic sentences clearly state what is going to happen in that paragraph. All right, so what it is just, it's an aid, it's a tool to help the reader. All right, it's a device that it's kind of like you waving a flag to the reader and saying, this is what I'm going to talk about. All right, so it just helps the reader understand. And they contain no detail. This much match the main idea in your introduction. So you're going to take the main idea in your introduction. You're going to write a short sentence just stating this is what it's about, and then you're going to develop it. So don't worry about adding more detail or explanations or anything like that. So our main ideas are here. So our first main idea is improve research. Our second main idea is threat to national security. And you simply take the ideas from the introduction and you paraphrase them. So here is my topic sentence. So here in blue is my introduction. So this is the introduction. And then what I've done is I've taken the idea from the introduction and I paraphrased it. And you can start discussion questions. You can start the first main body paragraph with on the one hand, and then the second main body paragraph with on the other hand. Don't do that for any other type of essay, but for discussion questions, it's fine to just start off. So on the one hand, and then state your main reason. On the one hand, the research process is greatly improved with free movement of material. So my paragraph is going to be about this and this only. All I have to do now is explain it. Okay, so explanations. Why do we write explanations? The main difference between speaking and writing is that the reader cannot check information or ask any follow-up questions. So if you're speaking to someone one-on-one, you can ask them, what did you mean by that? Or why is that? Or how is that? Or sorry, can you repeat that? When you're writing, the reader can't ask you those questions. So what you have to do is anticipate those questions, those who, what, why, sorry, I don't understand what you mean, please explain further. All of those types of questions, you must anticipate them and write them. And this goes for any type of writing. One thing you'll notice is on the feedback sessions so far this week, half the questions I'm saying when people ask me those questions, I'm saying to them, sorry, I don't understand your question, because people are not giving context, they're not explaining what they mean. So explanations just, again, help the reader. Topic sentence, it helps the reader understand what the paragraph is about. Explanations help the reader understand the whole thing. Students fail to grasp this vital reason. You must fully explain things because the reader needs that clarification. So I'm not just teaching you about IELTS here, I'm teaching you about reading, writing, communication in general. Many students also believe that the examiner knows about this already, so they fail to explain things. So often when I'm criticizing students, not criticizing, critiquing their work, I'll say, why did you not explain what this means? And they'll say to me, well, the examiner is intelligent. Why would I need to explain what this means? They know what it means. No, do not assume that. Do not assume that the reader knows what you're talking about. So how do we make explanations? So a very useful thing that I say to a lot of my students is picture a small child, so not a baby, a 7 or 8 year old child who can read, that knows very little about the world. So they don't know anything about the world yet. They're 7 or 8 years old, they can read, but they don't really have a grasp on what's really happening in the outside world. If you told them that the sharing of information improves research, what would they say? So imagine talking to a 7-year-old boy and you said the sharing of information improves research. What would they say to you? If they were interested in what you were saying, they would say, what? Why? How? So you're providing explanations to help that little boy or little girl understand what you mean. That's what you should be doing in the IELTS test, developing your main ideas, explaining what these things mean, always in relation to the question. So you must leave no doubt on the page. Make the examiner fully understand. One thing that a lot of you do, and this is very clear when you were asking me questions in the feedback sessions, is you assume that I know what you're talking about. You assume that I can understand your thoughts. I can't understand your thoughts. The examiner can't understand what you think that you mean. You have to put that on the paper. You have to fully explain what you mean. So let's look at an example, because when I use this, when I teach students this, 25% of students will still be like, what does that actually mean in real life? So let's look at what a real example is. So the main cause of global warming is the release of too much carbon dioxide into the air. Why? Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, and this causes the sun's heat to be trapped inside the Earth's atmosphere. How? CO2 is released by vehicles and industry as fossil fuels are burnt. So this would be a pretty good start to a main body paragraph. If you took the why away and the how away, these are the bits in red are just the questions that you should be asking yourself, because the reader is asking them as well subconsciously. So if you put all this together, this explains the main cause of global warming is the release of too much carbon dioxide. What does that mean? Well, it means this and it means this. So as you can see, this is a practical example of how to develop your main ideas. So explanation. So feel free to pause the video and have a read of this. So this is my topic sentence here. On the one hand, the research process is greatly improved with the free movement of material. Then these two sentences are my explanations. Now, a lot of you are obsessed with number of words and number of sentences. Like a good explanation could be 1 sentence, it could be 2 sentences, it could be 3 sentences. It's about the quality. It's about doing the right thing rather than the number of words or number of sentences. So this is because the more evidence scientists and academics have to use, the more reliable their findings. Pretty obvious, but you need to state that. If you don't state that, the examiner doesn't know that you know that. The most efficient way to get a larger sample size is not to conduct more studies, but to use multiple similar studies in the same field, thus improving reliability. So I've developed it and explained it even more. Now, does your explanation need to be exactly the same as mine? No. There could be 100 different explanations and they could all get a band 9. It doesn't really matter what you put, it's the ability to explain what you mean clearly, whether you can do that or not. And then when you do that, you finish off your paragraph with an example. So examples help strengthen our argument. Think about a time when you've ever had an argument with someone. How did a strong example make you feel? So if somebody was arguing with you and they were just giving their opinion, but then they backed it up with a real example that proved their point, they've won the argument. So think about it in legal proceedings. It is much better to have hard evidence than just to have the opinion of the lawyer or witness. So before I was an English teacher, believe it or not, I was a corporate lawyer, and I would go to court. And if I just said, let's say I was suing a company for stealing intellectual property, for example, and I said to the judge, this company should be sued. We should be able to get compensation from them because they stole our intellectual property. And the judge would say, so what? Where's the evidence? And then I would show the real evidence. I would show the example, and the judge would say to me, okay, you've won. It allows us to improve the authority, to improve the believability, to strengthen our argument. That's what they want you to do. So there are many misunderstandings about examples. There are many different ways you can give an example. There is not just one way to give an example. In order to make it easy for you, here's a checklist. Here are some things that you should be thinking about when you are writing your examples. Does the example actually support your main point? So if it's very vague, or it's unrelated to your main point, or it's unrelated to the question, it's not a good example. Does your example make sense? So this might sound silly, but every time we do, what day is it? Wednesday, we do demo lessons inside my private group. And what I do is I demo a whole essay, and I get students to submit their work, and then I give them individual feedback on their work. And I'd say 10% every single week write an example that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So last week we were doing one on violent video games, and the person put, for example, through 1/3 of children in Asia were murdered because they watched, or committed violence because they watched violent video games. And I was like, really? Hundreds of millions? Over 100 million children, or maybe more, were murdered? It just doesn't make any sense. Another student, the week before, we were talking about smoking, and they said something, 90% of people who smoke die of lung cancer before the age of 30. I was just like, that doesn't make any sense. That's blatantly not true. So it just must be logical. It must make sense. So it's fine to make them up. You can make them up. The examiner is not going to check them. But if they just sound really unbelievable, then they just don't make sense. And that's not a good example. And does your example have authority? Does it actually back up? Does it actually prove your point? So 3 that work really well. I don't like giving people canned responses or set phrases or anything like that. I really don't like doing that, because what it does is it doesn't allow you to have the flexibility that you need in order to perform well on the writing test, and it kind of turns you into a robot in a way. It makes you very, very rigid. But for examples, here are 3 examples, or 3 ways of writing examples. So a recent study found that, plus something that supports your main idea. Recent research found that, plus something that supports your main idea. But a real example is always best. And the way to, a lot of you will ask this question, I don't know anything, how do I get examples? First of all, you do know a lot of things. People who say that normally know a lot more than they think. But a really good way to improve your reading, improve your idea generation, improve your grammar, improve your vocabulary, is just read the news every day. Don't read every single news article, but go to the BBC or the Guardian or the New York Times or the Times or whatever, it doesn't really matter, but read 3 or 4 articles each day. You will not believe the number of really, really good real examples from newspapers and stories and things like that, real things that you'll be able to use in the IELTS test. Okay, so this is my main body paragraph. This is my topic sentence. These are my explanation sentences. And we're going to add an example. So, for example, the CERN project run by the European Union uses scientific facts and figures from thousands of scientists all over the globe to develop its theories. So that is a real project that a lot of people know about. Well, maybe not a lot of people, but it's definitely in the news quite a bit. It's a very, very, very important project. Do you need to know about that specific scientific project? No, but you might know about other ones. You might be a doctor, you might be a nurse, you might be a scientist, you might be an engineer, you might be whatever you are. I'm sure you are aware of some famous research project, or it could be just something like cancer research or heart disease research or something like that, or AI research or whatever it is. An alternative, just to show you how this recent research way goes. Recent research has found that businesses are more profitable when they share best practices with other corporations across different industries. Okay, so what I've done is I've just put recent research has found that plus an example that shows exactly what I think. Now, you could improve that. You could do different things with it. You could talk about specific corporations. You could put in data. You could put in percentages, whatever you want to do. It's not really that important. What is important is that it's authoritative, that it supports your main idea, that it makes sense, that it helps support your main body paragraph. So remember, the examiner is not testing your knowledge. So they're not testing how much you know. They're not testing your IQ. That would be very unfair. They're testing your ability to state your main point clearly, to explain that main point clearly, and support that main point with an example. So to take the examples, for example, they're not testing your range of knowledge of examples. They're testing your ability to use examples in a sentence, because that is very important skill. They're testing your ability to explain your main points, because that is a very important skill. Imagine if you get a job as a doctor or a nurse or a lawyer or an engineer or whatever in London or Sydney, and you do not know how to explain things in emails or notes, and you do not know how to write topic sentences, you do not know how to write examples. You're going to find it very, very difficult to be effective in your job. These are basic communication skills. Putting it all together and add your opinion. So what we're going to do now is show you the full main body paragraph. So in black, we have our topic sentence, our explanations, our example. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our opinion in at the end. However, this essay disagrees with this view, because if certain details fell into the wrong hands, it could become a public safety issue. So you don't have to use the exact wording. You don't have to use this essay disagrees. You can put I disagree, or there are many different ways that you can do it. But what you're doing is you're putting your opinion in. All you have to do is just put your opinion in, make your opinion clear. So the bit in black is us discussing what other people think. The bit in red is our opinion. So just to reiterate, developing main ideas, topic sentence, explain, and example. If you can do that, you can develop your main body paragraphs for any type of essay. For other types of essay, you're not going to put your opinion in at the end here. That's just for discussion essays. But for all different types of essays, you're going to use topic sentences, you're going to use explanations, and you're going to use examples. They will be slightly different. There will be slight things that you would change for different types of essays, but that's really it in a nutshell, is topic sentence, explanation, and example. Don't overthink it, don't overcomplicate it, don't overstress about it, but you must do those things. A number of you, a common question I was getting in the feedback sessions was, can I include multiple ideas in my main body paragraphs? So if you're including multiple ideas, you have two choices. You can write a very, very, very long main body paragraph, because you have to have a topic sentence, you have to explain that, and you have to have an example. Or you can not explain them or not have an example. Both of those are a very, very, very bad idea. You will not have time to fully develop multiple ideas for two main body paragraphs, and you must develop your main body paragraphs. You must develop your main ideas. So my advice, one idea, one paragraph. You can talk to me about that and ask me further questions about that, but I'm not, to clarify things, but that is it in a nutshell. Okay, so the challenge, very important that you do this, guys. Pick one side and write a main body paragraph. I really want to see how you've progressed so far this week. And I really want you to activate that knowledge that you've learned so far this week. If you don't do that, you're wasting your time. If you've watched these 3 videos and you haven't done any work yet, you've completely wasted your time. Don't waste that time. Don't let it go to waste. This is also going to help you pass the exam, guys. So, don't waste another $250 doing the test again and waste even more money and, the money that you're losing for every day that you're not working in a job that is going to make you even more money, time away from your family, time away from work. It's a huge waste of time if you fail the test again, guys. So get it done, get the work done, improve, move towards your goal. So this is just a small part of a multi-step process, and you must complete each part. So tomorrow we're going to work on vocabulary, paraphrasing. Friday we're going to work on grammar. Really important that you show up and do that as well. Keep it simple. Do not overcomplicate things. Do not overthink things. Do the challenge. You know why that's important. And post below this video. Please don't send me an email or Facebook or something like that. Just post it below the comments. Thank you very much, guys. I really, really appreciate it. You can show up at 6 p.m. and I'll be giving feedback to everybody, and you can also ask me any questions. Thank you very much, guys. See you again soon. Bye-bye.